This is Cultural Debris with host Alan Cornett.
Joel Miller, welcome to Bookish Questions with Cultural Debris.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You have the perfect backdrop for our discussion, I think.
Yes.
Almost. I feel like that's not accidental, but also not purposeful. So that's
Books are
that's good.
both an accident of my life and also my driving purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand. I'm getting ready to leave town, and I have at least 2 books in the mail on their way. So I'm hoping I get to see them before I leave. So that's
right.
So that's nice. You are the author of a new book, which I have not a physical copy of, but this is what it's going to look like when physical copies exist.
Yep.
And
Not
it is
too long from now.
the idea machine. So I do not have a physical copy in my possession, but I do have a virtual copy, and this comes from that. So, but it's a book about books, and I have to admit that I have a little collection which you can't see, but it's off behind me to my left. I have a little collection of books about books, mostly typographical kind of things, but I do have some other books about books. But I think that most book people like books about books. It's sort of the ultimate meta totem, I guess. But you have written a book about books, and we're going to talk about that as you stand in front of books, and we are surrounded by books.
I'm standing on a stack of them also. So
okay, very nice. Yes. And last time we spoke, and I will tell people that you and I have done a full interview together a while back, and I think you were in the same spot. But you had been banished from your house, but you're back. You're now back amongst the books. Probably more books than you had last time we spoke.
Well, they are better arranged. Last time, I mean, yes, there are more, but last time the big issue was I had so many in boxes, which couldn't fit into the space, and we were exiled from our home because of a mold infestation, which I recommend nobody get if you can avoid it. And
would not recommend.
It did provide us the excuse for a renovation, which meant I actually got more bookcases, and now so it all worked out.
So you didn't really like fix it so there was mold so you could get more bookshelves, though. That wouldn't be right at all. So
I'll never tell.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to your home, and welcome back to a cultural debris discussion. And you do have this new book, and that's what we're going to talk about. You explain in your book that books are a form of necromancy. How is that the case?
Books allow you to have conversations with people who are long dead, and we don't even think about how remarkable that is, but we on a regular, often daily basis, pick up books written by people or compiled by people who have been dead for centuries, if not millennia, and we don't actually think about what a wonder it is that we have access to those ideas, to those voices, to those considerations, to those framings of human experience. And yet there it is. And it's a remarkable fact enabled by this technology of the book.
Yeah, books are so, I mean, it's the air we breathe in a lot of ways. We're just, we simply take them for granted. There's something that we just have. They're just around.
When you think about the phrase familiarity breeds contempt, that might be true. But as far as books go, familiarity breeds neglect. We just don't even think about them very much.
Right. Well, I mean, some of us do, but at the same time, we don't. We take them for granted that they're just there, but they are really a perfect technological advancement.
Yes.
There's really no way to improve upon a book. The book
Well,
has reached its terminal point of development as far as usability, I feel like.
that's entirely possible. And we are the benefit of a long history of development. So the minute you agree to the concept, which is what my book argues, the minute you agree to the concept that the book is an information technology, now you can start treating it the way you would treat any other historical artifact that you can kind of investigate along those lines. And you can see the development of it, how it developed, why it developed, what it enabled its users to do. And it's really impossible, frankly, to imagine the development of civilization as we know it without the book, because of all of its technological affordances. And, those may be strange words to use in relationship to, Shakespeare and Gilgamesh, but it's true. And the same thing that allowed us to have access to Shakespeare and Gilgamesh also allowed astronomers and philosophers and theologians and every other person that's ever picked up a pen or read a book to have an interchange with ideas that lived either outside of their head originally or were formed in their head, and then they were able to share, which, if those processes don't happen, we don't get civilization. And yet the technology, the tool that enables that to happen is the book, something that I think you're right. Like, we can obsess about them, but we do take them for granted. Like the bookishness of the book, what that actually means and how that functions in our life. We don't consider that very often. We
Right.
enjoy individual books. We think about that, but we don't think about what they've enabled us to do.
Something you discuss, and so this is kind of, let's back up a step, but something you discuss in the book about books is, what is a book? So define a book for me.
Yeah, that's actually kind of tricky. It's both very easy and it's very tricky. The book is called The Idea Machine. And the argument for that title is I want to drive home the technological aspect of what a book is. And there's some precedent for people referring to a book as a machine. And so I was able to play with that to get there. But if you go back further in time, you'll find that people have wrestled with this question for a couple thousand years. Roman jurists had to decide what was meant by the language of a book when it showed up in a will, for instance. And they decided basically anything written on anything counts as a book. And that's pretty broad, but honestly, if you think about all the different things around us, even that count as books, you see why they would be that broad in their definition.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've got, broadsides and pamphlets and that sort of thing that I have collected and accumulated and so forth. I kind of broadly think of those as books, although something like a broadside isn't portable in the same way a book is.
Not quite as portable.
Right. Yeah. Not quite as portable. I mean, it has a different use, developed from a different use, but still printed, still letters. But the book, as we understand it, sort of the codex, I guess, but pages bound together with a cover that you flip and so forth. When did that really become sort of reach a recognizable form for us?
In the 1st century AD, the technological, emergence of the codex was a thing. Depending on how you look at it, it comes out of the Roman context. It's really as simple as some folds of parchment and or papyrus that are sewn down the middle or just folded and never even sewn. But that gives you what we're used to when we think of a codex, like pages with a spine. And in the context of that world, they were mostly notebooks. They were the kinds of things that workers of various types, technicians of various types used to keep notes, to jot down, recipes, all sorts of things like that. They were like the tools of particular trades. However, and weirdly, they kind of took off among Christians. So if you think about the rise of Christianity, one of the things that co-occurs with that is the rise of the codex as a technology. And if you actually look at charts of, deposits of ancient manuscripts that are found in various catalogs, if you look at the rise of Christianity and the rise of the codex, they track. And they track in part because Christians favored that format for reasons that are still a bit of a mystery. There's speculation that is fairly decent and good speculation about why that would be. Part of it has to do with the ability to actually take multiple codices, stick them together, codexes, stick them together and create larger books. The ability then to take, for instance, all of the Gospels and put them into one presentation, or all of Paul's letters and put them into one presentation, or just all of whatever and put it together. So if we go back and you look at very early codexes, Christian codexes, sometimes they're a jumble of various texts, but what they are a bunch of texts. And, the only way to get them into one format that would work easily, that would be portable, thumbable, consultable, was a codex. And so they just ended up preferring that. There's other reasons why, possibly. It's contested, like anything. Sure. However, Christians adopted them widespreadly. And what that ends up meaning is, as the kind of predominant Greco-Roman elite began to decline in the 5th century and the Christian world is on the ascent, the prior favored version of the book, the scroll, goes down in terms of popularity while the codex rockets up. And so once you get into late antiquity and into the Middle Ages, there's still uses for scrolls, but they're very few. And what you find instead is the codex is the dominant form.
Right. It is interesting, in the same way that the infrastructure of the Roman Empire allowed Christianity to spread and flourish. You have the development of this new technology, essentially a technology that allowed them to take the written word hither and yon, first through letters, then they were really able, what you're basically describing is they were able to create anthologies in a way that they had not been able to before, compile things together. And so the New Testament, as we understand it, it started to be put together at that time. I mean, it was, it took a while to figure out, like you said, sort of a jumble in different orders, right. Different, some things in, some things out, but eventually created in a uniform way. And of course, you talked some about monks writing books and so forth as well. Well, we've talked a little bit about the history of the book. We live in an electronic age of things like TikToks and Reels and podcasts, even dreadful things like that. What is the future of the book? Does the future of the book look bright, or is it? Are we on the cusp of growing beyond it as a civilization?
It's a fascinating question, and it's one that's hard to answer for a couple reasons. The first reason is we're really good as a species in assuming that we're always on the downswing of anything. And so, like, if the book has been dying in various ways since forever, intellectual life in various ways has been dying since forever. And you can find, at various points in history, people complaining about this or that thing is going to undermine, the way the world is. So yes, that's totally true. But yet here we are. And I imagine that some version of that will continue. The second thing that's tricky is some of the developments that would unseat the book, or at least that we imagine would unseat the book, are the product of the book. So when we think about, for instance, the internet, and when we think about generative AI, if you go into the history of those tools, the development of those tools, they come out of the book. Mm-hmm. When you read, for instance, in the second to last chapter in The Idea Machine, I document how the guy responsible, J.C.R. Licklider, responsible for like basically creating the internet, or the proto-internet, was also the person tasked with identifying how to help library science move into the future in a way that would deal with just the incredible amount of data that is out there. This has actually been a major issue all along in the history of the book, going all the way back to Ashurbanipal, all the way up through the early eras of print, all the way into today, which is that humans create more information than we can manage. And because we create more information than we can manage, we're constantly coming up with new means of domesticating all that data. And, some of that is like metadata. There is, like, for instance, metadata examples of that going all the way back to clay tablet archives, in Sumeria, and where people have made libraries easy to navigate. Essentially, you can imagine almost like clay and sandal leather internets, where people are wandering around trying to gather information and serving them up to the people that need to have them, rulers and so on. But that challenge has been persistent. And so in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, 70s, you've got people who are on the forefront of what is essentially digital science coming along and saying, hey, we need to figure out how to deal with all this data. And they, coming out of or related to the library world, are then talking about solutions to these problems that give birth to the internet, that give birth to generative AI. And so they're related concepts. And if you think about what the internet is, in some ways, it's just a very large unbound book. And in many ways, generative AI, depending on how you're talking about using it, when we speak about large language models, they function in a way like a library and a librarian. You are going to, for instance, ChatGPT or Perplexity or something like that, and querying it, and it is going to the bank of data that it has and coming back with answers for you. Obviously, all of that can be used in ways that unseat a classic way of engaging with a book, but they can also be used in ways that enhance it. So I'm hesitant to say that, like, we're on the cusp of the dark ages here. At the same time, I recognize that we have not seen this level of technological change relative to the book since, frankly, the arrival of the book. I mean, what we're dealing with right now is a very interesting moment in that regard.
Yeah, when it comes to Chat GPT, AI, and so forth, I think that there is. I'm not entirely negative about it, as some are. I mean, I'm leery of it, or leery of its abuses, especially sort of casual abuses. But I think that there are ways in which it can help us to learn about the information that we already have in a better way. It can compile vast amounts of information that we have, but we as limited humans can't possibly take in all at once.
Yep.
So it can bring facts together. I think it's also going to be helpful in doing maybe some, at least basic translation work on texts that have essentially been lost because there are just too many to translate.
I document several examples of that in the book, and they're fascinating.
Yeah,
we have access to language that, or to texts that we just don't have the ability to translate because we don't have enough speakers of those languages. And yet now we have access to models that can do that for us or help us with that.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not dealing with a what you might consider an academic level of translation, it would be better to have some notion of what's being said there to maybe flag somebody who does know. I mean, who could bring that out
Yep.
in a more full way, because there's just too much. The concern, of course, I mean, this isn't unique to me. The concern that I think a lot of people have is and this is where physical books and especially old books are so useful, is that it freezes the information in an unalterable way. So you can't slip in and start editing things around
Right.
in a way that we don't know. We can go back and we can check past editions. So I think that the digital age offers opportunities, but I think there are also dangers that where things can be accessed that couldn't be before. There's also the danger of things being altered, changed, or lost through the digital age. So the book is it remains the way to talk to the past, as C.S. Lewis tells us: read old books, right?
Yep. They go wrong in different ways than we do. So
right.
If you, as he said, could get books from the future, that would be just as useful. Unfortunately, they're not available yet. So,
well, except for yours. For me right now, your book from the future, at the time of this recording, is available. This is the book, The Idea Machine. It releases November 18th. And hopefully people are seeing this before that. So, yeah. But if they're not, it would make a perfectly timed to be a Christmas present for something for the stocking.
If your stocking is large enough, you could fit even 2 in. So there's always that.
There you go. I mean, I think that book size is a good rule of thumb for stocking size. You want a stocking that's at least big enough to hold a book, but there's always under the tree. So, congratulations on the book, Joel. That's I know you've done all this while being out of a house and moving back into a house, and
it's actually been a very long process, including moving into this house in the first place. The book ended up being about a 13-year process.
Oh, wow. Well, and it is, as I said, it's a very meta book, because it's a book about books, and we're talking about it on a interview segment called Bookish Questions. So it's even more meta. It's like triple meta, but as long as we're talking about books, I'm happy. So everybody grab that. And are you going to be doing any kind of promotions, tours, show
I'm
appearances?
Right in the middle of starting all of those details. So I'm nailing down all that I can on that right now.
All right. And people can, of course, follow you on social media, particularly X, to find out about things like that, and also website and so forth. So, all right. The book is The Idea Machine. Joel Miller, thank you very much for being on. Everybody go grab a copy.
Thank you so much for having me, Alan.